right. Hi there and welcome. My name is Patti, and I think I had one slide before, so I should maybe go one time back. Yes. So thank you, Web Summit, for inviting the Drupal project on stage today. And today I'm going to talk about open source. I'm going to talk about a project called Drupal, which is a web content management platform that has been around for 20 years. Drupal was also recently approved as a digital public good by the Digital Public Good Alliance, and Drupal's registration as a DPG is a recognition of the positive global impact that Drupal has had on promoting equity as an open source technology. So let's start asking some questions. Who in here have heard about the project Drupal? Okay, good. Wow. And how many of you are actually using Drupal today? Okay, so we have a lot of work to do here. So my name is Patti Sonja Breidert, but I come from the country Iceland. Has any of you been to Iceland? Yeah, Iceland is great. And you might all think that in digital world everything is moving fast. But I can tell you in Iceland things are moving fast now because we have a volcano eruption happening almost right now between Reykjavik and the airport. It's actually our Blue Lagoon is in danger. So sorry for that if that's going to go wrong, but most important, there's actually people living in the area where we're going to have an eruption coming up very soon. So I know my Icelandic friends here in the audience, they are refreshing the newspapers. But today I'm going to be actually, well, let me see. This goes away. The name Patti Sonja Breidert, if you come from Iceland, you have a different name. Your name is Ólafsdóttir. It's the daughter of your dad. But I was lucky that I got married to a guy from Germany and I got his last name. I'm the CEO and co-founder of 1x Internet. We're a digital agency working with Drupal in Germany, Spain, and Iceland. I'm also a Drupal contributor since 2013 and a board member of the Drupal Association since 2018, and just recently the chair of the board. The Drupal Association is the non-profit organization that is focusing on accelerating Drupal, fostering the growth of the Drupal community, and supporting the project's vision to create a safe, secure, and open web for everyone. The Drupal Association also administers Drupal.org on behalf of the Drupal community. So today we are going to talk about open source. And we are more specifically going to talk about what it takes to run an open source project in a decentralized way. So let me tell you a little bit about open source. You probably all know what open source is. Open source software is also referred to as a free software and is distributed with a usage license that grants you 4 essential rights. You can use the software for anything. You can study and analyze the source code. You can modify it and change it to your requirement. And most importantly, you can share it and it has no license costs. And to give you a little bit of an idea of open source software out there, probably most of you have a phone in your hand or in your pockets. If you are using a mobile phone, there is a high chance that you're using Android or Apple device. The former is fully open source, and the latter is largely based on open source components. You're also probably using one of the browsers, Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. When you're browsing the web, the content that you're seeing is most likely served through a Linux operating system via Apache or Nginx, using a MySQL or MariaDB, and it is delivered using a reverse proxy that is potentially built with Varnish. The software generating the apps or the websites that you're seeing is most likely implemented with PHP or one of the frameworks that are built on top of Java or JavaScript. This list is endless, and all of these are open source software or using open source components. But most important is that we are using these software on a daily basis. But you might think, why are large companies creating open source software and giving it out for free? What is the business model behind that? Well, there is a very highly scalable business model behind open source software. Some manufacturers of open source software provide dedicated hosting solutions that are optimized for the software and can be delivered at scale. Others provide proprietary extensions to the software or create profitable marketplace solutions to extend the software. So that's all very good. But what about the unicorn? What about Drupal that we are going to talk about today? And we are not the only one. There is also other open source software out there that is run like ours. We do not have any one company that is in charge of our projects. In that case, we are a unicorn. There are actually software, there is like Drupal, which is created decentralized. It's becoming more and more of a unicorn because this doesn't exist anywhere. And when I say decentralized, I mean that decision-making is not done by one large company that decides what the next thing should be done in the project. On the other hand, it actually gives contributors to the project autonomy to actually make decisions. And today, I actually want to tell you how we create an open source project in a decentralized way that actually managed to scale like Drupal. So I had to put Dries up here because he's the founder and project lead of our project. I told you earlier that Drupal is a web content management platform, and it was created in 2001. And when I asked you earlier if you've heard about it, probably it is because we have been over 20 years out there. So Dries founded it. He's a Belgian guy, and he wanted to build a message board for his friends to communicate in the university. Drupal is also written in PHP and uses the latest version of Symfony 6.2. So it's very relevant and has a very modern stack. And some of you might think, like, well, what about PHP? Is PHP not that, right? No. 80% or 79%, according to statistics, on the web is run on PHP. So it is far from being that, and not just that. WordPress, Drupal, Typo3, and other great open source projects are using PHP. So now we are at the Web Summit, and we have to play the buzzword game, right? So I hope that all of you have been visiting all the booths around here. And you probably saw one or two of those buzzwords. And they are also good, because this is what we are hearing every day. If you go on your LinkedIn profile, if you go on Instagram, you're hearing about the composable stack, the low-code, no-code CMS, the headless open source CMS system, API first, fully accessible, AI-powered, multilingual, and mobile first. These are just buzzwords that we are seeing every single day. And I'm going to tell you something. Drupal is either the pioneer in CMS using these buzzwords and integrating those technologies that allow us to use this. Either it's a pioneer, or we have already integrated it within weeks into our project. And why is that? It's because we are a very large open source project and community that makes sure that we are always integrating the latest technology. So we can then stop a little bit and think about these three ones that I've highlighted on the stage. So we have the headless CMS, low-code, no-code, AI-powered. So you could probably now today go on Drupal.org and install Drupal. Then you can go and create your data structure in a low-code, no-code way by drag and drop and creating your content types. Then you can install modules like for GraphQL or JSON API and immediately make your content available in a headless way. So then, of course, we have the OpenAI module and all the sub-modules that are helping us with AI. And you can immediately install that, integrate it with your CK Editor 5, ask a question, and get generated content back. All of this was possible almost 1 year ago in our system. So the question is, why is a project like Drupal and such a powerful open source project not known for doing all these things? Well, now again, probably because we are created in a decentralized way. We do not have this one company that goes out there and talks about how awesome this project is. We luckily have very good people using Drupal around the world, and we are probably having around more than 5% of the websites of the world, but it is still not enough. And that's why we actually came to the Web Summit, because we said we need to change this. We cannot just only support our contributors and our community and the code and be like the people who are just inside of our bubble. We need to go out there and tell you that there is actually a software out there that you can use. But what are we actually selling? Probably nothing, because it is for free, right? And that's the difficult part. So I really hope that you're going to be looking at it when you come back home after this conference. But now we, of course, need to go into details about how do you do this? How do you create a project in open source that is not controlled by one of these large companies? And this photo is from DrupalCon Lille that happened in France only 2 weeks ago. And you can find our founder there somewhere in the photo. So let's look at Drupal. Drupal, we have managed to create an ecosystem of companies and individuals that support the software. We have very strong leadership and, of course, good governance to enforce all the innovation that is happening in the project. Just like the example that I mentioned earlier. So every time something new comes on the market, it already exists in Drupal. We have over 50,000 modules or plugins that you can just install when you download it later today. So we have over 1.4 million users, of which 224,000 are actively contributing to our projects. We have 5,000 companies or organizations listed on Drupal.org, of which 1,200 are actively contributing back. And all of this is managed and maintained by the Drupal Association, where we are representing Drupal today. So this all results in more than millions of websites out there that are run by Drupal. And many of those, the larger the sites are with more traffic, the more the chance is that it's being used by Drupal. So let's look at that a little bit. I just went on BuildWith yesterday or the day before, and I checked those companies here in Portugal. Lisboa Airport, Lisboa University, Visit Portugal, and Bank of Portugal. They are at least using Drupal somewhere in their ecosystem. It doesn't have to be their main website, but at least they are using Drupal. Then we also have other examples like the European Commission, Bayer, Pfizer, Nestle, and Co. They are also using Drupal and have been doing that for a long time. And you can just look at that by going on Drupal.org and actually see these organizations listed as an organization contributing back to Drupal. And that's actually what it is. They are not just using Drupal. What they are actually doing, they are contributing back to Drupal. So if you look at this example here, we can take a look at the European Commission. The European Commission is a large user of our software, and they also have a lot of people working at the Commission, making sure that their websites are maintained. Many of them, almost 80 people, are regular contributors to Drupal, and we see this all on Drupal.org. And they are, in the last 90 days, they have gotten 83 issue credits. And it works like this, that because of our contribution system, we are a little bit unique in open source. And we have been asked by many other companies, how do you manage actually to record this and create this ecosystem? And that is because of the power of our contribution system. All kinds of contribution activity on Drupal.org can be attributed to individuals and organizations, giving us extremely important insights into our ecosystem. The contribution system also plays an important role in promoting individual companies and organizations that are giving back. We use organization contribution history to list them on the marketplace and give them more visibility inside of our Drupal system. That means that if you are a developer working in the project, there is a higher chance that you're going to find a job working with another Drupal agency, or if you're a Drupal agency, you're contributing back to the project, your visibility is going to be higher, and probably you're going to get this trusted factor when you're next time pitching for a new project. So this is extremely important, and we are probably one of the very few open source projects out there that is actually registering contribution credits. And I know that we've been moving now over to GitLab, and we have, together with the GitLab people and the Drupal Association, we've been helping to find out how we can actually manage to continue doing this on the GitLab project platform. So these companies that we looked at, they are not just only contributing patches. Because that's maybe easy to be contributing patches. Yes, I'm doing my thing. But the companies in our ecosystem, they are actually very deep involved in strategic components of our software. So a very good example is Sony. So Sony was back then the main sponsor behind our main query builder tool in Drupal. And this is actually in Drupal core. And Sony was the company that was behind that and started to make sure that the developers and that gets sponsored. So surprisingly, we also have competitors of Sony using Drupal today. And most likely all of them is using the components that Sony created. What a great example is that. Another example is our pharmaceutical companies during COVID. We in the Drupal project, we were really proud that 3 out of 4 companies that were providing vaccines in COVID, they actually they were all running on Drupal. And one of them is Pfizer. And Pfizer is actually one of our main contributors to content moderation. Because that is really important to Pfizer, that content governance and content moderation and everything related to your content is well managed in a content management system. So Pfizer has been investing their efforts, money, people, to make sure that that goes into core. And of course, all the other pharmaceutical companies that are on Drupal, they are benefiting from that and using these modules every day. So what a great story to see how actually open source works, and works in a well and good way when it is decentralized like Drupal is. And therefore, I really want to tell you a little, we have 20 years of stories that we want to tell you. And we have a booth in Pavilion 5, and we really encourage you to come to us if you are a user of Drupal, if you want to become a user of Drupal, or just check it out. We have core committers, we have people from the Drupal Association, and also from the companies in our ecosystem standing there in the booth. And most important, the Drupal Association also wants to give something back. We have a difficult situation in our world today, and instead of going and creating swags and stuff to give out in our booth, we said that we want to give 5,000 euro to a donation to a charity of our choice, and we chose those 2 that are obviously running both on Drupal. So please, come to our booth, help us to choose whether we should give the 5,000 donation to Doctors Without Borders or UNICEF. So thank you so much for coming, listening, and I hope you learn a little bit more about open source today. So I'm really happy to see you here, and thank you very much.